Hello, this is Myra Elaine on the Buying Space channel. Today I'm continuing my series on the four Gospels Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I am in the book of Luke, and Luke was a physician. And he wrote the book of Luke, and he also wrote the book of Acts. And anyone that has read the book of Acts also understand that Luke, in addition to being a physician, was a historian. So we're starting in chapter 5 today, the first disciples. Verse 1. One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed two empty boats in the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, who's also Peter, "Now go out where it is deeper and let your nets to catch some fish. Let down your nets." "Master," Simon replied, "we worked hard all night and didn't catch a thing, but if you say so, we'll let the nets down again." And at this time their nets were so full of fish they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "O Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will be fishing for people, fishers of men." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. There's some interesting background information here. The other fishermen were Andrew, James, and John. And James and John were the sons of Zebedee. And James and John and Simon Peter later became the sons of thunder, and they were part of the inner circle of Jesus' disciples because they were his first disciples. But James and John were also his first cousin. Zebedee was his uncle. Zebedee's wife, I think her name's Salome, was a sister to Mary, Jesus' mother. So not only were these two, James and John, his first disciples and his inner circle, they were his first cousins. And they grew up together. And they would have grown up with their other cousin, more distant cousin, John the Baptist. So when he recruited them as disciples, they knew the law, they knew the scriptures, they knew the Old Testament, they knew the temple teachings, they knew all of this. Even though they were fishermen, they grew up in the synagogue with Jesus and John the Baptist. Just imagine that. So they are, it's only natural, I think, that they would be part of his first disciples, along with Simon Peter and Andrew. And dear old Uncle Zebedee got rich that day, too. I'd never thought about this before today. But he had all those fish. His 4 fishermen walked away from him that day to follow Jesus, but I'm sure he found somebody to help him with all those fish. And I'm sure it fed a lot of people too. His new employees and him and his wife and probably Mary and Joseph and the whole village to have. Everybody had that fish. I wonder if it was on a Friday, because I always wondered how that Fish Friday thing started. But speaking of which, hold on just a second. Marty, come here. It's okay. Stir the rice and see if it's done and see what fish we have.
All right. Yeah, it looks just a little bit watery, but let me
give it a stir.
Yeah. Still just a little bit watery, but it's soft.
Okay. 5 more minutes?
Yeah, 5 more minutes ought to be.
Okay. Now I want to see what fish we have in the freezer. I know we have catfish. What's the one in the blue package?
Swine.
Okay. Do you want the catfish or the swine?
Swine.
Okay, put that in the refrigerator.
Okay.
And then I'll bake it later.
Okay.
So we're having rice and fish today. It's a good protein to have. The rice isn't so healthy for us because it has a high glycemic index. And a shout out, here's Marty, to Dan, who is on a rice and I think potato diet now. I don't know if I could do just rice and potatoes with vitamins, but there may be something to it. But I would be careful. I would have to be more careful with having rice every day. Rice is tricky for diabetics, but we got plenty of fish, and I felt like I wanted to let you all know that we were having fish today because of the miracle Jesus performed here. And if I went off the rails a little bit too much for some of you, I'm sorry. I used to just read the scriptures, and then I started saying, sharing my Bible study about the scriptures. And now you can just bet that I'm going to be talking about pretty much anything I want. And either you love me or you don't. And I hope you all love me. But if you don't, I'm just going to pray about it. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone.